Welcome to The Explainer. Seriously, I'm so thrilled you're here today because we're going to unpack something absolutely fascinating. We're looking at a brilliantly designed high school business simulation called The Hire. But hey, do not let that high school label fool you for a second. Underneath the surface, this whole thing operates as a ruthless, highly calibrated psychological trap. It's literally designed to expose the exact cognitive biases that trip up full-grown adults, seasoned managers, and top executives every single day in the real world. Think about this for a second. How do you actually teach teenagers the harsh, messy realities of middle management? Or, the invisible pull of cognitive bias? Well, you definitely don't just hand them a textbook. No, you throw them into a high-stakes 12-day pressure cooker. You force them to make tough decisions with super limited information, and then you make them live with the compounding consequences of those choices. That's the exact premise of The Hire. And today, we're going to break down exactly how this ingenious trap is sprung. Section 1. Welcome to The Hire and the Hidden Game Engine. All right, let's get right into the setup. So, students are broken up into small teams, right? And each team manages a 5-seat department over 12 simulated days. They inherit 2 existing employees, and they've got to hire 3 more from a pool of 6 very carefully crafted applicants. And here's the real kicker. They're competing purely on cumulative net score. The team with the highest score at the end wins the whole class leaderboard. So it's not about who hires the flashiest talent. It's about who actually manages the best. What really drives the relentless pressure here is the daily loop. Every single class period is 1 day, and teams follow a strict 4-step process. Step 1, lock moves. This means deciding who to hire, fire, develop, or keep. Step 2, the teacher reads the day's situation out loud. Step 3, decisions resolve into actual output numbers. And Step 4, the leaderboard updates. But here is the brutal, unbreakable rule. Teams absolutely must lock their moves before they know what the day's situation will actually bring. There's no waiting for hindsight to save them here. And all of those high-pressure decisions, they feed into one foundational mathematical equation that runs this entire simulation. Output equals skill multiplied by morale. This is literally the heartbeat of the game. Think about it. If you have an unaware manager who just chases raw skill but completely ignores how people are treating each other, that morale number is going to absolutely tank. And because output is a multiplier, a highly skilled employee with terrible morale will slowly, inevitably destroy a team's total output. You simply cannot win this game on skill alone. No way. Section 2, the interview illusion. Let's move to the hiring phase and really pull back the curtain on what the students think they're doing versus the psychological snare the teacher has actually laid for them right on day 1. Teams get a few signals to make their hiring choices: an interview score, reference checks, and a work sample. But here is the secret. These signals are designed to disagree on purpose. The game intentionally feeds students conflicting data. And the massive trap, that flashy interview, is explicitly programmed to be the least reliable signal of future success. It's the boring references and the work sample that actually hold the reliable truth. So teams face an agonizing choice right out of the gate. They can go with the flashy hire, you know the type, confident, polished, an absolute 9 out of 10 in the interview. But their true skill is actually a 5, and they're going to plateau if they aren't heavily coached. Or they can go with the quiet hire. This person barely spoke, their interview was a measly 4, but their references are glowing and their work sample is stellar. Their true skill is actually an 8. This is a perfect real-time demonstration of the halo and horn effect. The dazzling interview casts this halo that completely hides mediocre talent, while the quiet candidate's interview nerves cast a horn that masks a true star. Section 3. Navigating psychological traps. Okay, so this whole game is basically a Trojan horse. On the surface, students are told they're learning different thinking capacities. But secretly, in a hidden ledger, the teacher is tracking deep-seated cognitive biases, catching the students red-handed day after day. By day 6, we hit a brutal microstory that introduces something we all struggle with: the sunk cost fallacy. The honeymoon phase is officially over, and teams are forced to confront the investments they've already made. Here's the brutal choice they face today. Suddenly, a top-tier, raw 9 talent becomes available, but the team's seats are totally full. To bring this star in, they have to fire an inherited underperformer. But firing costs a $300 severance fee. Naturally, teams start thinking, but we've put so much time into them already, right? That is the classic sunk cost trap. If they keep the underperformer, they start paying a compounding morale tax that just drags the whole team down. But if they take the leap and hire the star, another trap is waiting. They have to actually give the star real work, meaning delegate to them within 5 days.
or the star gets bored and quits. It's this relentless test of deciding forward rather than dwelling on the past. And looming over all of these crazy decisions is a strict, unyielding constraint: $1,500. That's it. That is the entire budget that governs the full 12-day simulation. You only have $1,500 to spend on training, raises, and severance for the whole game, which means every single dollar you spend is a direct choice against doing something else. That tight budget becomes the ultimate weapon on day 7. It tests a powerful bias known as loss aversion. Imagine one of your absolute best employees suddenly asks for a raise. You're terrified of losing them, right? So you're faced with a choice. Do you panic and pay a $1,200 raise, or do you offer genuine, non-cash recognition? The fear of loss pushes most teams to just panic and hand over the cash. But the game's math engine proves this is a catastrophic trap. Why? Because both options actually yield the exact same boost in morale. But that $1,200 raise instantly bankrupts the team, leaving them with zero budget to train their other developing employees for the rest of the game. Just a brutal lesson. The compounding consequences just keep piling up until day 10, which features honestly one of the most heartbreaking lessons in management: attention, inequality, and neglect. By this point, managers have been spending all their time and budget putting out fires caused by their loud, problematic hires. And meanwhile, they've completely ignored their steady, low-maintenance, high performer. So on day 10, if you never recognized or invested in that quiet anchor, they silently quit. Boom. All their output is gone forever, simply because your attention flowed exclusively to the loudest problems.
Section 4. The Big Reveal. Finally, the dust settles. We reach day 12, the end of the simulation. This is the payoff for the whole experience. The all-knowing teacher finally steps out from behind the curtain to reveal the hidden game mechanics and the cognitive biases that have been quietly shaping the entire leaderboard, and it is a massive game-ending twist. Look at how this plays out. Early on, around day 1 and day 4, the flashy teams, the ones who chase the best interviews and the highest raw skill, are completely dominating. I mean, they're leading the pack. But by day 6, the temporary honeymoon output fades. True skill takes over. And by day 10, the flashy teams completely collapse under the weight of their own bad decisions, while the boring, disciplined, evidence-weighing teams inevitably overtake them and win the long game. Let's look under the hood at why that collapse is totally inevitable. Those flashy teams were actually artificially propped up by a temporary honeymoon output. It's a programmed bump that all new hires get, but it inevitably fades. Once that faded, those teams were left dealing with compounding morale taxes from toxic talent, not to mention unaddressed conflict drains because they avoided having the hard conversations. So now, their budgets are drained, their team hates each other, and their output just plummets. What makes this simulation so incredibly powerful is that it's an exact mirror of the real world. During the debrief, teams have to defend their management philosophies against actual real-world data, like Google's famous Project Aristotle. And the data proves exactly what the disciplined teams figured out the hard way. Psychological safety and good, steady management, not raw, individual flashy talent, are the absolute best predictors of team performance. A disciplined process beats chasing the flashiest people every single time. As we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. Knowing your own biases, knowing how easily we're pulled by a confident smile, how terrified we are of sunk costs, and how often we neglect our quiet, steady contributors. If you were given a $1,500 budget and 5 empty seats right now, today, would you survive the hire? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me. Keep challenging your own thinking, and I'll see you in the next one.